Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in our world today. About 800,000 to 1 million people die by suicide every year, more than 36,000 in the United States alone. This is about one death every 40 seconds to suicide. Males are 3 to 4 times more likely to commit suicide than females. The number of suicides is greatest between the ages of 15 and 29. There are also approximately 10 to 20 million non-fatal suicide attempts every year. These attempts are more common in young people and in females. Some of the most common factors in suicide are mental disorders, drug abuse, recent crisis, physical health, financial issues, and family or work-related issues. Another major factor that affects the risk of suicide is the availability of a way to commit the act. For example, suicide rates have been found to be much higher in homes where a firearm is present than in those where one is not. Genetics accounts for about 38 to 55% of suicidal behaviors. War veterans have a very high risk of suicide because of physical and mental problems related to war. Only about 15 to 40% of people leave the suicide note. Mental illness is the leading cause of suicides around the world today. Studies show that mental disorders are often present at the time of suicide, with estimates ranging from 27 to more than 90%. About 8.6% of those who have been admitted to a psychiatric unit at some point in their life risk a completed suicide. Half of all people who have successfully committed suicide suffer from depression. A history of previous suicide attempts is the greatest predictor of eventual suicide completion. About 20% of suicides have had a previous attempt. Of those who have attempted, 1% complete suicide within a year, and more than 5% complete it after 10 years. Although there are many methods in which people commit suicide, hanging is the leading cause worldwide, accounting for about 92% of deaths. In the United States, 57% involve a self-inflicted gunshot wound, with this method being more common in men than women. I chose this topic for a number of reasons. In the past few years, people close to me have committed suicide, and people even closer to me have attempted. I don't know about you, but the first thing I think when I hear about a suicide is why. No research will ever answer this question, but what I can do is inform people, maybe even enough to stop someone from taking their own life. I chose this topic not only to inform myself, but to inform you about the dangers that lead to suicide and how terrible suicide really is. And maybe after today, you will be the one to save someone's life. I never realized how common suicide was, and the things that may seem small to me and you might be big enough for someone else to take their own life. You never know when someone comes to you with a problem, if that problem may be causing them to consider harming themselves in any way. The least you can do is listen. Suicide awareness is important because the little time you may take out of your day to listen to someone or cheer them up may be the difference between life and death for that person. Stopping what you are doing to save someone's life is definitely worth it. I picked my song because it's about a guy who wasn't able to save someone's life because he didn't know how. This is the case for many people. That's why I feel that promoting suicide awareness is so important. The song starts out by saying, "Step 1, you say we need to talk," which is a major step in suicide prevention. The person must be confronted about his or her thoughts. Ignoring the problem won't make them any better. He walks in, you say, "Sit down, it's just a talk." He smiles politely back at you. You stare politely right on through some sort of window to your right. You're telling him it's just a normal talk, and he smiles as you try to look at him, throw all your thoughts and worries in the window, keeping you away from him. As he goes left, and you stay right between the lines of fear and blame, you begin to wonder why you came. He tries to avoid the conversation, but you stay on track, trying not to let him see that you're afraid, but not blaming him for anything either. Then you start to wonder why you even tried to talk to him. Where did I go wrong? I lost a friend somewhere along in the bitterness, and I would have stayed up with you all night had I known how to save a life. When he doesn't make it, you blame yourself for losing him to the bitterness of suicide, because if you would have known how to save him, you would have. Let him know that you know best, because after all, you do know best. Take control and let him know that you know what you're talking about, because you do. Try to slip past his defense without granting innocence. As he's starting to get defensive, Think of another way to tell him what he needs to know without being too easy on him and making him think he's innocent. Lay down a list of what is wrong, the things you've told him all along, and pray to God he hears you. Start naming the things that aren't right. Repeat the things you've been telling him the whole time, and pray to God that this time he actually listens. As he begins to raise his voice, you lower yours and grant him one last choice. Drive until you lose the road, or break with the one you followed. He starts yelling, but you keep calm and give him two choices. He can either keep doing what he is doing and eventually ruin his life because he will have nowhere to go, or he can break away from the bad things he's been doing. He will do one of two things. He will admit to everything, or he'll say he's just not the same, and you'll begin to wonder why he came. He will either admit that he's a mess and that he has not been doing the right thing, or he will say that he's just changed and isn't the person you thought he was. And you'll begin to realize that you aren't getting anywhere and wonder why you even had this talk.
Thanks, man.